Welcome back to Daybreak, top of the hour on a Friday morning, the 13th day of May. We're joined this morning by Mrs. Iris Jemison, a 1996 graduate of Talladega College, and she received her bachelor's degree in English, and a longtime school teacher. And Iris, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, like you said, I'm a 96 grad of Talladega College. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in English. I was employed by Anderson City School System. I worked there for 8 years. After that, I came to Talladega County School System, where I worked there for 17 years, and that's where I retired from. During that time, I worked in several capacities in and outside of the classroom. I was a graduation coach, a high school resource teacher, and an AP English teacher.
I have heard it said, not one time, but many times, as a school teacher, you have to love it.
You have to. That's part of the job. If you don't love it, then you're going to be miserable.
Yeah. So how did you get started writing?
You know, I really don't know. Being an English teacher, you're going to write. I mean, that's just something that you're going to do.
You get cramped in your hand writing.
Yes. But I just started writing. Well, actually, I think I was at Winterboro School, and that was the first school that I taught at when I came to Talladega County. I was bored one day because we were doing standardized testing. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing standardized testing, you can't have anything to read. You're not supposed to write. You're just supposed to watch the kids, walk around the room, make sure that they're on the right numbers. And I was just absolutely bored. And that's how my first poem was born, actually, because I saw this boy eating on this eraser. And I thought to myself, what if he swallows that eraser? And he disappears. And then from then on, I started writing.
So did you think when you were younger that you'd become a writer one day?
When I was younger, I never thought that I'd become a writer. Actually, I wanted to be a paramedic, and I was until my very first wreck, and I couldn't take it. So I went back to school and majored in English.
All right, so what are you writing now?
I'm writing nonfiction children's literature, and it's nonsense.
Couldn't get away with the children, did you?
No, I couldn't. It's nonsense rhymes, pretty much something a cross between maybe Dr. Seuss and Roald Dahl, things like that.
All right, so talk about the book you have with you this morning.
Okay, the name of my book is The No Sense Nonsense Book of Rhymes. It is so wickedly funny. It takes things in real life and just makes a pun about it, and it's just funny. And it's geared to children pre-K through 5th grade.
Oh wow! So, how long did it take you to put this one together?
Gosh, I started writing on this book probably in '06, and so. This is 2022.
Oh my goodness.
But I wrote off and on.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that just sits down and just constantly writes. Yeah. So I would start a poem and then I'd stop.
How do thoughts come to you about your book writing?
I don't know. It could be something that someone says or something that I have experienced or something that I've seen. And then sometimes it's just purely just inspiration. I sleep with a composition notebook by my bed.
You do not?
Yes. I do, because sometimes in the middle of the night or the early morning, I'll get a thought and I'd say, oh, that would make a very good poem. And so I'd jump up and I'd jot it down and then I'd get back in the bed.
So how can people get the book?
Okay, if people want to purchase my book, you need to look on Amazon. It's available at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Goodreads, and Walmart.com.
Now, you had a lot of fun writing this book.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Every time I would write a poem, and it's so funny because my sister, who lives in Colorado Springs, I would write a poem and I would actually read it to her, and she would just be absolutely elated and fall out laughing. And one time she read I was reading one of my poems to her, and she got so tickled, I thought I was going to have to call Colorado EMS to come to her house.
So, how many books and poems have you written?
This is actually my very first book.
Okay.
But I've written numerous poems. This book contains 27 of my poems.
So, you mentioned the little boy chewing on an eraser.
Yes.
I hope he's well and good.
He was. I made him stop chewing on it. But it made a good point. It's just like I said, when I see things that happen, for instance, during the pandemic, when we were on lockdown.
You had a lot of writing time on your hands.
Well, I did, and I had a lot of inspiration because my husband and I decided we wanted to garden. The first time we had ever tried to garden, and he was one of the essential workers, so he would go to work every day, and I was at home. So I had to look after the garden. There were so many weeds, and absolutely, I got so tired of those weeds, and then I had an inspiration. I'm going to write a poem about these weeds, and I did. And the title of the poem is in this book is I Hate Weeds.
Wow. Now, what about your children and grandchildren? You got kids and grandkids?
I've got 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and 2.5 great-grandchildren.
Do you ever think about them when you're writing your poems?
Well, I'm glad you said that because there is a poem inside this book. I have a granddaughter who is autistic. And but she's very, very smart. She'll be 16 in a few days. And one of the poems inside this book is called "A Royal Mishap." It is about her.
So what's next for you? You got book signings coming up?
I've got book signings coming up in about a couple of weeks. I will be doing a book signing at one of the local elementary schools. I also have a book signing the week of July 25th in Colorado Springs.
That's the other side of Talladega, isn't it? A long way. Must be a family connection out there or something.
My sister lives in Colorado Springs, right?
Mrs. Iris Jemison with us this morning, a 1996 graduate of Talladega College and received a bachelor's degree in English. And she began her teaching career in Anniston City School System. How has teaching changed, or has it changed, or has it just changed how you do things in teaching nowadays?
All of that and more. All of that and more. When I first started teaching, the children have changed. They don't learn the same way like we learned when we were in school. So you have to change with the times. And then we have all this technology. And it makes things easier in some ways, and then in some ways it does not. So that's what I see. And then, along with the technology comes all the paperwork that teachers have to do, and it's just changed over the years. But I think it changed for the better, but then sometimes it's changed for the worse also.
Let's get back to your gardening just a minute. How did that eventually end up, the gardening? How'd you handle those weeds?
Look, I was still fighting those weeds. I fought them to the very end because I felt like it was kill or be killed.
Oh, that's good. So what's on the table next as far as your writing is concerned?
I've already started on book 2.
Okay.
And it'll probably be entitled More Nonsense. Because if you read the poems that are inside this book, there is something in here for everyone, even an adult, that an adult can even connect with.
Mrs. Iris Jemison, author and writer and poems and reading novels, and she loved to travel. And you actually married your high school sweetheart, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. We've been married, 39 years.
You ought to have it right by now. Now, in your book, book of poems, am I right on that?
Right.
Okay. I want you to, are the poems long?
No.
Okay. I want you to open your book And I want you to read us a poem this morning and describe why you wrote this poem.
When you're hungry and you don't know what to do, just go in the kitchen and make some crocodile stew. Most of the ingredients come in a can, others you probably have right on hand. 1 very large pot, 2 Idaho potatoes, 3 large sweet onions, 4 cans of tomatoes, 5 garlic cloves, 6 bell peppers, 7 cans of creamed corn, 8 boxes of crocodile pepper, 9 stalks of celery, 10 cans of black beans, 11 sticks of butter, 12 cans of seasoned turnip greens. Now add a big fat Nile crocodile. A skinny one won't do. Skinny Nile crocodiles do not make good crocodilian stew. Mix all the ingredients till they come to a boil. Reduce the heat, turn the oven to broil. Pour the ingredients into a large roasting pan. Cook in the oven until it turns black and tan. Remove, let cool for about an hour. Sprinkle with flour and then devour.
Oh, wickedly funny writings. No sense, nonsense book of rhymes. Say that fast 10 times. No sense, nonsense book of rhymes. Iris Jemison, our guest this morning. And so what are you doing outside of your writing now?
Outside of my writing, I'm just getting my schedule together for the summer because that's what I plan to do is travel. Yeah. Just travel.
Wow. The book you're working on too, I'll just call it part 2 of the first writing. Now, I'm assuming I'm just kind of laughing as you read the poem. This is pretty easy read, isn't it?
It's a very easy read. It is, because like I said, it's geared to pre-K through about 5th or 6th grade.
Wow.
Yes.
How would you encourage others who maybe were fighting their own different kind of weeds? How would you encourage them to write what they feel and write what they think?
Just to, that same question was asked to me when I was at one of the elementary schools a couple of weeks ago. And what I would tell them is this: get your notebook and just jot down ideas. Anything that comes to your mind, jot it down. Writing is really not hard. People think it is, but writing is not that hard. And just write down what you feel and put your feelings on paper. A lot of people think poems are supposed to rhyme, and that's not true because all poems don't rhyme. Some of the best poems are the ones that don't rhyme.
Now, who is some of the poets that you kind of look at as maybe a model for you?
I love Dr. Seuss, Roald Dahl, Jack Prelutsky. Those are some of my favorite poets.
Wow.
Actually, Jack Prelutsky, I have a poem in this book. It's called "The Turkey Shot Out the Deep Fryer." And and Jack Prelutsky also had a poem. It's called "The Turkey Shot Out the Oven." And when I read that poem, and I had my students actually learn that poem in 7th and 8th grade, I said, you know what? I was thinking about that, and I don't know if you remember this, several years ago, everybody was frying turkeys. Yeah, and if you remember, a lot of people who were frying those turkeys, some of them got hurt because they were putting frozen turkeys in that hot grease, and what happens? It explodes. So in my poem, that's what it talks about, is the dad actually put a turkey in the deep fryer. It exploded, it shot through the house and went into the laundry room and caught the house on fire, and it's just a funny
Wow.
It's funny.
Iris Jemison, writer, and she writes poetry, and she reads novels, likes to travel, and this is her very first book, No Sense, Nonsense Book of Rhymes. Again, Iris, how can we get the book?
You want to get this book, it's on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Goodreads, and Walmart.com.
All right. I wasn't going to do this, but we've got time. I want you to delve into the book and read about them weeds for me before you go. Can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Iris Jemison with a weed story that only she can tell.
Let me see what page it's on.
Don't start crying and laughing now.
Okay, I'll try to keep my composure. And that's one thing when I'm writing, believe it or not, I crack my own self up.
I bet.
I do. Okay, here's I hate weeds. Weeds are low-down little scoundrels that pop up everywhere. They are stubborn little rascals that really do not care. They grow where they're not wanted. They multiply and divide. They are plenteous, I tell you. Get rid of them. I've tried. Inside my vegetable garden, I planted several seeds. But one thing I didn't plant was those pesky little weeds. I don't understand their purpose. I guess I never will. I'll fight them to the finish because it's kill or be killed.
No sense, nonsense book of rhymes. Mrs. Iris Jemison, our guest this morning. Iris, thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an honor to have you and continued success. And we look forward to book 2.
Yes.
All right. More Daybreak coming up right after this.